Orb presents Dia de los Dangerous.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Orb, Episode 3, Dia de los Dangerous.
Episode 1 of Season 1 of The Venture Brothers.
Can we do accents? Is this racist?
How much fire are we playing with at the moment?
My instinct is no, but my instincts have been wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're getting into it, and boy, what a 180. Like, I forgot how good this show gets so quick. Like, the first season of the show is the weakest season of the show.
Yep.
That says way more about the other seasons than it does this season. This feels like the Venture Brothers, and there are a billion good jokes in this episode.
So many good jokes. Visual jokes, funny, sound gags that happen.
Yep.
Yeah, just
sound jokes, visual jokes.
They achieve a density here that is very familiar. And it makes me almost suggest to people, when you go and watch this show on streaming, maybe skip the pilot a little bit, because the pilot was the first episode that I ever saw, and it gave me a bad impression of the first season, which actually has some bangers in it, including this one.
Yeah, absolute bangers in it, and some kind of average stuff that we'll get to.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening so far. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody who has subscribed, everybody who has rated and reviewed, and the like. Keep those coming.
Please do.
Please.
Yeah. So before we get in and talk about this first episode, this is the first episode of season 1, and there are some production details that are revealed in the Go Team Venture art book. Unfortunately, there is no DVD commentary for this one. I wish that I knew how to read the included slip in the DVD box set that I had that showed which episodes had that and which didn't, so I was not poking around the menu trying to find it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's not hidden or anything.
No.
So as we mentioned last episode, Adult Swim, they did the pilot. Adult Swim greenlit it. They said, yes, go. And they had a really quick turnaround for season 1 where they had to make this. Public originally intended to bring on his kind of writing mentor to help with this, the people he'd worked with on The Tick. But the mentor, in which I think is Ben Edlund.
Yes, Ben, yes.
Yeah. Had no real ideas what to do with these characters.
Right.
As they were laid out.
And it was kind of revealed through the discussions that Public and this guy Edlund had kind of a different understanding or approach to how something like this should be developed or carried forward. Public had a more character focused approach, and so did Doc Hammer, who was kind of overhearing these conversations as the series was going from pilot to, actual series. He overheard this and just kind of insinuated himself in and said, hey, if you need help, I'll be here. We can work on this. And it's good because they had the right idea that, plot doesn't necessarily matter if you get your characters in line.
Each episode of the season needed to be cheaper to produce than the pilot. The pilot was where the money went. These need to be cheaper. They had an animation studio that they used, Noodle Soup, who basically said everything after storyboarding need to happen in Korea.
Yes.
So they do. So the layout and animation actually had to happen there. And Public actually enjoyed this. It stopped him from micromanaging. It saved some kind of effort. They did a good job. The cartoon eventually looks better, but it still looks good here, basically.
Yeah. Leaps and bounds better than the pilot, even at this early date. Yeah. And that is true. Sending stuff away is a real leap of faith, especially at the layout stage, which in animation basically has you doing all the backgrounds and setting up the key poses essentially. That is a huge, I'll say it again, leap of faith to send stuff away. And it's great that it came back the way that it did. One thing that had to be worked out was the fact that Doc Hammer had never written a television script before. He was a painter, he was a musician, but he had to learn how to format a script by looking at other people's work. And it was real humbling for him to send away and then send a script away and then get it back and realize, oh, what I thought was the snappy joke actually takes for fucking ever to get across. He kind of had to learn. He would people would be talking for a paragraph,
and he would learn. But it came to it pretty naturally as well. It wasn't a thing where it was this huge growing pain. He just had to learn what a script looked like. And what's really fascinating, they trusted each other. They both just worked on scripts. This is a public script. The next episode we're talking about, Careers in Science, is a Doc Hammer script. The first two that they wrote, Doc Hammer finished his first, but they flow together pretty well. Yeah. It does not feel to me whatsoever this is a rank amateur versus a professional.
Yeah, just their collaboration kind of was just in their conversations about roughly what ideas do we have about this, and they would say oh, I have this new character, here you go. Cool, take it. Yeah, just a real natural, effortless collaboration. It's what they make it sound like.
Yeah, they would take notes on their stuff. So it'd be Doc lost a kidney.
Yes,
and I can use that in the future. And they do.
Yep.
There's so many things. There are a lot of seeds planted. In this very first episode that pay off years and years and years down the road. So one of the jokes in this is that Doc is already missing a kidney. We find out what happened to that kidney down the road, and I just that's the special magic of this show.
Yes.
Noodle Soup didn't have a budget to do a title sequence for this, so Doc Hammer made the thing on a composite at the Astro Base because he liked doing that stuff. The title sequence of this is incredible. One of my faves.
Yep. And became kind of the source for all of the branding. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely iconic. As you mentioned, there's no commentary, so there's not a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff. This is also a little less reference heavy.
Yes.
Then some of the things, there are a couple of things, references that are explicit. A couple of things I also kind of feel like I spotted that are possible. But it's a little bit more straightforward than some of the later episodes will be. And there's not quite as much oh, that guy in the background is this. There's a little bit of that, but there's not quite as much.
Yes. Yeah. We're not getting a glimpse of somebody who will be a main character or a relative of a main character 7 seasons later.
Yes. Speedy does show up again, but for a one-off.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Let's get into it.
We do our cold open. We jump into the story at a moment of high tension. Brock is playing strip poker with this cartel boss. And we can tell that this is happening in Mexico because the people who are looking on at this high stakes one-on-one game of poker, they're dressed up like luchadors.
Yeah, it's at a typical luchador poker party.
Yeah,
and the music, obviously. This is I joked at the beginning of this episode, is this racist? Can we do accents? This is genre stuff. Yeah. I think this is making fun of a specific kind of genre of the dangers of Tijuana.
Right.
As a thing, I feel like this is touching base with things that have touched base with that before. Not that necessarily, again, if this hurts you as a depiction of a town you care about, then this doesn't take that away. But I feel like this personally crosses my good intention list.
Yeah.
The guy who he's playing poker with has a vendetta because he gave him this scar. They both lay down, Brock has a full house and he lays down a big handful of nonsense, a crazy handful of nothing, as they would say in Breaking Bad, and says, this is a royal flush by Tijuana rules because in Tijuana, I make the rules.
Yeah.
And then the reveal that they're playing strip poker, which is incredibly good.
Yep. But Brock stands up and he's going to take off his underwear and he drops it. Everybody's at first unimpressed, but then something happens. Stuff shuffles and falls, and then everybody's impressed. One guy even goes so far as to clap.
I love that guy so much. It's I was wrestling with that joke. I'm like, is this like a gay panic joke? No, it's
a machismo thing.
it's sexless. It's just that he's such a commanding hog that you can't help but notice. Like, one of my friends in high school used to have a joke about a guy so manly that after he came out of the bathroom, he'd clap. and this like, you get an ovation. That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
And then the cartel guy looking at him like, don't clap. I love that so much.
Like it's been a problem before.
Yeah. Just incredibly good. So we get our first Brock fight scene here as he nude takes out all these luchadors and this cartel guy.
His opening move is to spit his lit cigarette into the cartel boss's good eye. Brock has a thing for fighting nude, and this is before Eastern Promises.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Eventually, after taking out these guys, the cartel guy calls the fight off and says, fine, I'll give you the part free of charge. It's a part for his Dodge Charger. As he's leaving, one of the luchadors says, please take me with you. And I guess, nah, you're good. and just throws a shirt at him. And as you did in the notes, it's a reference to the old Coke commercial with Mean Joe Green.
I love that extremely dated reference that, like, I mean, I recognize that right away. I was not alive when that was a thing. Like, when that was on the air. Why do I know that commercial? Because of the things parody it, but
exactly, like Simpsons, that, like, other things have parodied that commercial.
Yeah.
But the idea of recontextualizing that to be after a naked fight is very fun. It's also specifically the guy who clapped.
Yes.
Who has to go with.
Yeah.
So we get our intro break, and we start with this is the first part of my notes where I'm like, is this racist? Where Dr. Venture is giving a speech at the Community University of Mexico at Tijuana School of Continuing Education.
What I love about this is, like, this feels designed not so much to, like, say anything about, like, what, about this school, but, like, it is something that Dr. Venture specifically would be disappointed in himself for doing. And also, like, the reveal, where it's just like, okay, University of Mexico pulls out a little bit at Tijuana, Community University, and then School of Continuing Education. The fact that it starts out at something that seems, pretty prestigious, and then eventually goes down to, like, oh, like, yeah, this is not where, like, a super scientist would be doing his stuff. But also, like, Rusty is phoning it in. Like, he's talking to this group of people, talking about how the scientific method rules out the existence of the chupacabra. And, like,
you put a gun to my head and said, hey, do a TED Talk now, fatty.
But, like, the proof that he has written on the chalkboard.
It's so good. No way.
No way.
Super impossible.
Yeah. and then I love the line that he has. Now, if you apply the same thing to Catholicism, an interesting thing occurs. Again, to this group of, like, probably highly Catholic Mexican students.
And on the board, there's a little church with a tiny little pope floating above it. Like, the drawing is really good. The background thing. The dean comes in here and says, somebody's asked him, it's not translated, like how to say this in Spanish or something like that. And he points out, like, they're in the wrong classroom. They're actually not in the English as a second language class. And the dean is very nice to it. He's just like, oh, sorry, there wasn't a better turnout. It is Dia la Mortis. So the students are not engaged.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, Rusty, with all of his cultural sensitivity, says, oh, right, that crazy dead people Christmas you guys celebrate.
Yeah. Like, that's the day. He heads out, Brock just walks up to Brock and goes, Senor Sampson, hola. And I'll be back in a bit. Walks away. Dr. Venture got paid at this point. And he's like, ooh, very generous. These are pesos. All these zeros are meaningless. He got paid the equivalent of $426.
Yeah.
Roughly, which makes a lot of sense as, like, an adjunct.
Right.
A talk.
That's a pretty good fee for an hour-long lecture session, probably.
Yeah. They flew down to Mexico for it.
Right. Probably pay for all the fuel in the X1.
Yeah. But Brock is now Brock. Like, everyone is everyone now.
Yes.
When they show up, like, the kids walk up to him at this point, and Hank's like, this place is tits, and I was like, oh, like, in my notes, I'm like, Dean is Dean, Hank is Hank.
Yeah, like Hank is going to fire off with something like awkward like that, and Dean later on, Dean's establishing moment here is, because Dr. Venture gives them money and he's like, oh, we should do something nice. It's like, oh, let's use this selflessly. And of course, Hank calls him a nerd for that.
I love that Dr. Venture's like, don't you kids have some place to be? It's like, they look at him. And I also really love, like, we got, divvy this, we got these rad Mexican hats, sombreros. The Dean correcting tone is one of my favorite things.
Oh, it's so good
in this show.
Yeah, you can't imitate it without holding your index finger up.
Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah.
So they run off with some money, and a monarch butterfly lands on Dr. Venture's shoulders. You can see that it has a little camera on it. It's a little robot.
It's also huger. It's bigger than a monarch butterfly would be.
Yeah. And he tries to explain, the Dean tries to explain to this. We cut over, though, to the monarch watching through the camera.
Yes.
He says the butterflies migrate to mate here every year.
Right. This is a remote control drone. The monarch is in his cocoon. He's got the right outfit now, which is good.
Yeah.
And we have Doc Hammer voicing Dr. Girlfriend, which is good because it's more than a cameo appearance at this point. But he's in the command room with Dr. Girlfriend and the henchman. He thinks that Dr. Venture followed them down here to Mexico. It's just a coincidence that they are here together.
Yeah. Since this is the first real appearance of Dr. Girlfriend, we kind of learned from the book, the original idea for Dr. Girlfriend was that she was a professional number two. She would kind of float from villain to villain, and it would always fall in love.
Yes.
With whoever, become involved with whoever she was working for. And they originally were going to have more of a villain of the week structure.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff in the book where they talk about, like, how we don't know, just have the monarch do it. Like, in their notes, they'd be like, a villain does this. And they just kind of kept going back to the monarch because the monarch was fun.
Yes.
And that's kind of how this dynamic and all the lore around that started.
I like how they settled on Dr. Girlfriend's past. Like, she's part of the guild and she has been a second in command for, several other people and, and even was her own, supervillain for a little while. But having her actually be somebody who is in love with the monarch is a good choice.
Yes. Yeah.
For the show, not for her.
yeah, that's true. And even though it could be argued, like as we go further, like, so the monarch is saying, like, oh, Venture followed us here. Who leaked? Who told? I just want to know. You won't be hurt. To one of the henchmen, one of them coughs and he kills him. There, and then the monarch calls up Speedy, who is our proto henchman 21.
Yes.
Here
he's got
an acne-clad guy who does not have his wings yet, which is this weird little concept that goes away pretty quick. Even though I love the episode where they figure out the wings can fly. That's one of my favorite moments in the show.
Yeah. So you know right away that the named henchman is going to get a tragic death. That's just one of the genre awareness things that they play with. But they're going to send him out. This may be the mission where he earns his wings. He's going to get 3 or 4 dudes to go with. And though he does not get his wings yet, you can drive the Monarch Mobile.
Yeah. Yep. I like that. We cut back to, Doc is giving the kids some money to leave him alone while he goes to a pharmacy to get his diet pills. And I love this scene with the doctor so much. Like, he's like, I cannot do that. These are all at cross purposes. You have none of these conditions. Like, I have tripolar disorder. And he's like, even for me, a Tijuana doctor, if I were to do this, I might lose my license to practice Mexican medicine. And then they play the little flamenco guitar. He says it. It's really good.
Senseless. Yeah. But it's like, Dr. Venture had said to the boys, oh, I need to go talk to one of my colleagues. And the doctor,
the top man in his field, and it's like this blood-stained Dr. Nick ass.
Who was principled enough to turn down a $10 bribe, but not principled enough to turn down, let's say, a prescription for President Ben Franklin.
Yep, $100 bribe.
Yes.
When Dean says they should use the money on something non-selfish, they're like, look at old Helper. He's looking pretty beat up, huh? Wouldn't it be nice to do something nice, for him? Like, he's always been there for us, being, super helpful.
Yeah.
And what they decide to do is he points at a chop shop.
Yeah.
Like a auto detailing place. Now, I don't know if this is the case, but what happens with Helper here feels like a reference to me to Short Circuit 2.
Oh, I've never seen Short Circuit 2. Does Johnny Five get, for lack of a better word, pimped?
Yes. He joins a gang called Los Locos.
Ooh.
And they, those like kid things that get stuck in your brain forever.
Yeah.
The gang pimp him, and then he comes back and gets revenge and like saves the main guy by kicking ass. And he does the Los Locos battle cry, which is Los Locos kick your ass, Los Locos kick your face, like Los Locos kick your balls into outer space.
Okay.
But it's a Johnny Five voice. And I was just like, oh, is this like that? That's what this made me think of. And I have no idea if that is also in Jackson Public's child subconscious or not.
It feels like it would be in the wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a good reason not to reference Short Circuit, given that it features like Indian face. Like it is an exceedingly racist movie that I watched as a kid because, my parents didn't have the vocabulary to understand or care.
Right.
That was an incredibly racist thing to do.
Right. To do yellow face like that. Yeah. Not the best. But I would believe it. I would believe that this is a point at that. Even if it is on its own still a fun, a fun visual gag, because I mean, when we get the reveal of Helper in all of his like just completely flossed out glory, it's so good. It rides that line between cool and tacky. He's just covered in flames.
Well, we don't know Helper yet either.
Well, yeah.
And his when Dean is saying like, isn't he kind of beat up? Hasn't he always been helpful? And he's like, beep, beep, beep. Like his like sad beeps that he's making are so good. Like this is a great Helper episode. It's so weird that the first episode of this is such a good Helper episode specifically. Some of the best like comic timing comes from Helper in this. Yeah.
Helper's voice, that is Jackson Public doing like a robot impression, and it's run through it's run through a bunch of audio filters. So it's like literally just him going beep 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 and doing the inflection. Yeah.
If you prefer to believe and not have all like life ruined for you, it's Soulbot.
It's Soulbot.
So you can go with the Cole explanation.
Yeah.
But I got a ball. Do you want to join my team? I'm saying it's Soulbot. So
okay. Soulbot does a very good job. I love Helper's design too. Just like how lanky he is, and the fact that he has all of these like gadgets built in. Like later when he goes into like full defense mode, when they talk when he starts talking about the inevitable war between man and machine. Like just the combination of how rickety he is, and also just like how implausible his design is because he just does whatever the plot needs him to.
Yeah.
And the way that the way that his mouth is just a little hinge that flops open wildly on the bottom of his tin can head.
It looks like the can that talks to Chris Maloney in Wet Hot American Summer.
Oh my God, the one voiced by John Benjamin.
Yeah. The like, no, you said you were going to follow your sweaters, and it's okay. I use ass cream. We all do it, So good. The henchmen are watching the boys walk down the street to go do this, and they're just supposed to observe. But Speedy says, like, we'll definitely get our wings if we kidnap the kids.
Not understanding how bad of an idea that is, and learning why it's a bad idea right away.
Yep. Because he, as soon as this happens, they alert Brock, and Brock gets an alert on his watch, and runs out of a bordello to go kill a bunch of henchmen. This is great. Brock charges, he gets all the darts in him, he like pushes them out, he grabs Speedy by the throat, and he only goes down when they hit him with a car. But he won't he won't let go of Speedy. He's on there really good. So they have to mercy kill Speedy, and like the guy who eventually would become 24. It's like, oh, that sucked. So good.
That's a good 24 impression.
I do a good 21 and 24, but I can't keep it for very long.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I lose it. But every once in a while I got it.
But yeah, it's just a literal death grip on this guy, on Speedy. So much so that even after Brock is ostensibly dead, they have to bury them together.
he shows up later.
Yep.
So the henchmen bring the kids back to the Monarch, and he doesn't want this. He's like, he's like, oh, you like, you got the kids. Brock Sampson's gonna be here. He's gonna go totally sick house on our asses.
And like as they lay out the story, like, hey, where's Speedy? The Monarch's like, they say, oh yeah, Brock got him, and the Monarch like breaks character. He stops doing his grandiose kind of voice, and is like, oh geez, don't say anymore. Like that's what a poor guy.
And they say, we don't have to worry about him going sick house because Brock is dead.
Right.
And he's super excited. He calls Dr. Venture on the wrist phone and gets an answering machine.
Yes.
Message, a video answering machine, telling you to have a scientastic day.
And we learn why why Dr. Venture is not answering. It's not just that he doesn't care about his kids, although that's a part of it. We cut to Dr. Venture having one of his womb dreams, where he is no longer alone in the womb himself, or what we think is him. We see one fetus like gnawing on the other fetus's leg, which is not how that works.
And he wakes up in a bathtub full of ice, with a note telling him his kidney has been stolen. This is that urban legend. That famous urban legend. But the very funny twist on this is that what happens when you do that to somebody with one kidney already?
Yep. He's like, oh, for the love of, no, not again.
Yeah, he looks down at his scar. He goes, 1, 2.
Oh, that can't be good.
This is serious. He tries to call Brock. There's this great delivery where he says, "Don't screen me."
God, James Urbaniak is just such a fucking. He's so good. Like but like he's not in a bunch of stuff, but between this and Review, like he is one of my favorite, just because like character actors. Let's say
he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Helper, he calls Helper because he can't get a hold of the boys or Brock. Helper comes up and just seems so traumatized.
Yeah.
Like he seems so scared. He's like in the new paint job where he's got flames all over him and stuff. He's like beep, 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 beep. Like a little, like a kid, like a baby.
He's also been left alone.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Yeah.
I love it so much. But Dr. Venture doesn't want to hear it.
Right. Dr. Venture's disdain for Helper is so good, especially when you learn that Helper raised him.
Yeah, he's just a robot to him, and it's because Dr. Venture's a fucking sociopath.
Right.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's really good. He's very sad. So he rides away on him. We cut over to the Monarch, waking up the boys in their cell, and they're like, "Where are we?" And you're in the belly of the lair of the Monarch's hideout.
Oh, Dean says this, like, we're in the belly of the lair of the Monarch's.
Oh, yeah. And the Monarch is trying to, scare them and trying to do villain stuff. And the kids are not having it.
Like they recognize him as that guy who, just like hassles them. And like the Monarch can't even give a reason. Like this would be the opportunity for him to explain the slight. For why he goes after him. We don't learn that until way late in the series why he does this.
Well, I don't think that the writers knew at this point. I think that they were trying, because they talk about season 1 as if they started as if it was the second season. Yeah. And there are all these things already kind of established. So you're meant to just take it as faith. Like, that the Monarch hates Dr. Venture. We'll actually get real reasons for all of this stuff. But I don't think they'd planned to do as lore rich as they are. I love the kid just being like, I don't think Pop thinks you're his arch enemy. Surely the Venture compound is blue with swears about the Monarch. No, I thought Baron Underbite was his arch enemy.
And again, this relationship between the villains established already by an offhand mention. Baron Underbite, we don't see him until later in the a couple episodes at the very least. Like we see him in the opening sequence at this point, but just this offhand reference to another guy who the Monarch classifies as a dime store Doctor Doom, and that's exactly what he is. Like he has his own Latveria outside of Toledo and everything.
I love that Doctor Doom exists in the universe, and they're not pretending. Really good. Dr. Venture went to his lab, looked up kidney in an encyclopedia under K, just to see what it does. And this is actually kind of good super science to make Helper into a dialysis machine. It's so creepy though. Like I love when he plugs in Helper and Helper goes, like the little pain things. And later when he drinks, like it's one of my favorite moments of this. And he walks away. There's all these things about him getting, unplugged from his blood cleaning.
It is a visual gag that they use at least 3 times in the episode, and it never ceases to make me laugh because it is always just a pop sound and then a spray of blood.
Yeah, it's very scary.
But this happens because Helper's not following him. Like Helper's just staying in place.
He has to tell Helper to follow him.
Yeah.
When he goes to call the boys, they don't pick up. He's like, Hank, Dave, and then Helper goes beep. He goes, Dean. Which I really love. The Monarch goes to, he's very sad that the dad isn't answering the calls. So he starts kind of comforting the kids about this. Like this is very early on. We have the emotional core of this show about like shitty fathers.
Yeah.
Here in episode 1.
So like the Monarch, ostensibly this villain who hates the Ventures and everything about them, like sees that the kids are being let down and immediately steps in and starts being their dad, and the kids are having none of it. They even say like, oh, he's doing the whole creepy uncle routine.
Yeah, I like that. And that's foreshadowing as well.
Yeah.
Which we'll learn way, way later. Dr. Venture can't track the boys, so he tracks Brock.
Right.
And he goes out to the desert where he sees Brock in a grave with a knife sticking out of it. The lines come out, we get our commercial break. When we come back, the Monarch is in bed with Dr. Girlfriend. He's just like really sorry about the boys. I love Oh Tenderoni. He calls her Tenderoni. I'm scared using that.
Yeah, I also
check
like
on him. Yeah,
I also like that Dr. Girlfriend is reading Memoirs of a Geisha, which is what somebody would be reading in 2004 when this came out.
Absolutely. The sigh is really relatable. Like she sighs when he says he's going to go check, and he goes, I know that sigh. And I'm like, that's a really lived in moment.
Yeah.
It's like, they both agree they didn't want kids. She thinks that he's trying to, and then he starts kind of opening up, and she softens to him.
Yes.
She says, I think you're trying to compensate for the loss of your own parents.
Right.
So we get the first draft of the Monarch's origin story.
Right. When you go and look at the interview in the art book, Public and Hammer are very cagey about this being an inaccurate recollection. They say like, oh yeah, he was an 8-year-old and probably suffered head trauma in that crash. So like what he tells here is not what it ends up being. I think that they did that because when the book was being put together, they knew what they were going to do with him and his origin. So
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, we get this flashback to him, 8 years old. He's fucking hideous. He is just a little goblin of a child with those eyebrows already there.
I love baby Monarch. It's very funny to me.
Yes.
His parents died in a plane crash while leaving Newark, just at the Pine Barrens, a very short plane crash. So he was raised by butterflies, learning their ancient ways, the secrets of their ancient ways.
Yes. He made himself wings. He followed their diet of eating nothing but milkweed, thus ensuring my toxicity to this day.
And unfortunately, one morning in the fall, he woke up and the butterflies had gone. It was like losing his parents all over again. And Dr. Venture, or Dr. Girlfriend is like, honey, monarch butterflies only live about 9 months.
Yeah, they're long
which
dead.
is such a long dead, super sad. Then he goes, but so I went to New York and claimed my inheritance. Got the party started. He learned about migration, and that's why he's in Mexico. He wants to find his parents.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh, Tenderoni. The whole reason I'm here wasn't to get Dr. Venture.
I love that it's a coincidence.
Yep. Dr. Venture was here for $426. And the Monarch was here to search for dead butterflies.
Yep. It was here to misunderstand how butterflies work.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm so happy they abandoned as his thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Going to nighttime where Doc has gotten drunk, drinking mezcal and sobbing over the shrine to Brock Sampson. I love everything about this. I love every time he takes a drink, it hurts Helper.
Yep.
And the camera follows the wires. The alcohol. And then when his delivery on these is like, you are my angel, my guardian angel. is so charismatic and good.
Yeah,
it's drunk guy talk.
It is very authentic sad guy drunk. Sad drunk guy? Either way works.
Either way. Yeah. Extremely good.
Yeah, but he's built like this entire shrine again because it is Dia de los Muertos, the time when the spirits are closest to our physical world. And him having drinking this mezcal is prompted. He is ready to believe that as Brock erupts from the ground, it is because of his work. It worked. My shrine worked. He thinks he revived his friend.
But Brock is just so hard to kill.
Yeah. Like the first thing Brock does before even saying anything is to, neck the rest of the bottle of liquor and demand to know where the boys are.
Boys.
The boys, they hit me with a truck.
Yeah. Oh, they hit me with a truck. I love Hank trying to pick the lock on the cell just by taking the belt buckle and kind of waving it in the direction.
Yep. Using the pin from his belt buckle.
Yeah, like as a kid, you might think, you pick locks by just sticking a piece of metal into the lock.
Well, if you see lockpicking only in comics, you think, okay, yeah, like just use it like a key. It's probably fine.
Yeah, I assumed I could always read lips.
Yeah,
it's really good. He says double damn it, and Dean says you said the double D word,
God, I love that.
which I love. And
Dean
the Monarch
is such
has
a
gone
good
into.
weenie.
I love Dean so much. The Monarch has gone into straight up dad mode. Is bringing them cookies.
The cookies
and
they're
they
shaped like
attack
little
him.
butterflies.
It's really cute. He thinks they're just roughhousing, but they're trying to wrestle him.
Yeah. Again, it's established that they are super weak because they've never had to protect themselves. But as they're dealing with that, Brock and Dr. Venture, they're flying to where the cocoon is. They had gotten the coordinates from the message that was left, like 100 messages. The Monarch left on
he was
the
really
watch.
explicit.
Yeah.
Should be around here. Is really explicit in his messages.
Yep.
A chupacabra jumps out of the car and attacks Doc, and there's this great Brock kills it with one hit and goes, quit screwing around. It's not screwing around, he got attacked by a blood-sucking chupacabra.
Yeah. Well, I also love the like this was an establishing line for the series for me where Dr. Venture had just spent time proving that chupacabras don't exist, and Brock just says, oh yeah, those things are everywhere down here.
Yeah. The street smarts versus book smarts kind of dichotomy here. Love it.
Yeah.
And he's just like, how long can you live without being attached to that thing? And Dr. Venture be like, oh, probably about 2 hours, but it wouldn't be. And as he pulls out,
he yanks him off the lines again.
Yeah. And they get in the car. All this action scene is so good. I love it. Like him, falling out of the back of the car in the Dodge Charger, doing the parachute, Doc being relieved, and then cutting the parachute so they get enough speed to just crash.
To crash through the roof of the cocoon. Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. And this has caused a whole big, just a whole big chaos, right? The Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend, they go to escape in the smaller cocoon, which is just a little escape pod that forms around their bed. So they get away and they don't get to see Brock using his charger, doing donuts around the command room, smearing all of the henchmen across the floor.
Yeah. They also, he puts on his wipers first.
Yep.
Like I remember the wiper thing, but I love that he
preps for it.
He preps for it. He knows what this is. That's like a great little touch.
It's called situational awareness. That's tactics, Gary.
Yeah, get used to it, honey. Get used to it, fatty. I love it so much. And just him going through and he's like, you get the boys. And he's, they hit me with a car and he's just slaughtering henchmen.
Yes.
Wholesale, coating his car with blood to really good music. Just like a great little soundtrack.
Yes.
Scene.
And then it cuts away from that. Like we assume that Helper just picks them up in the X1. That they have scooped up the Dodge Charger, somehogot it out
Helper
of the
drives
cocoon.
by the escape cocoon, and they do the callback to his new beat making La Cucaracha.
It's so good. I forgot about that. Yeah,
they do the little callback to that, and they did it before, and it's really good. His custom horn they installed.
Yeah, but they're in the X1 and they're doing the whole, the family's back together. What do we learn, everybody kind of moment. And, to get a kidney, they need somebody with they need somebody with a match who is a match to give to donate. And Dr. Venture makes the kids play rock, paper, scissors to determine who will give up the kidney.
He doesn't make them. He says, now who gets to do it? And Hank goes, rock, paper, scissors. But he says scissors, paper, rock. He says it in a different way. Or rock, scissors, paper. I know, rock, scissors, paper. Because they just want to do it because it's an adventure.
Yeah, because it's a fun thing to do.
And I love, at the end, it's like they wake up after the credits feeling like garbage. He's like, oh, man, I picked rock. And Ting goes, I did too. And Dr. Venture goes, I picked 2 beautiful kidneys and I feel freaking amazing. It is such a Doc Venture thing to do.
Yeah, he harvested from both of his kids.
It's really good.
I wonder if at this point he, they knew that the kids were clones. They have not started laying track for that just yet. So,
I feel like they definitely knew.
Okay,
the creators 100% knew that.
Okay,
yeah.
So at this point, that is just psychological horror, because Dr. Venture could just make just harvest a kidney from one of the clones in the farm, but he makes the kids battle it out to determine who gives it. Yeah, I don't know.
Incredibly good.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the episode.
Good helper episode.
Extremely good helper episode. Just a good episode in general.
Yep. I like the Monarch's backstory. And starting off right away with a really good kind of look at their relationship. Just like the fact that the first conversation that they have is like, oh, we agreed we didn't want kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, showing that the Monarch is more than just the screaming madman, who's giving big speeches. He does that, he gets fulfillment out of it, but there is a backstage to this as well.
Yeah, just beautiful stuff. I love it. I am looking forward to continuing the season. Admin note, we will have a couple of guests on the season. We're not doing a full guest structure. I know we mentioned this before, but we're in the process of lining those up. So 2 or 3 times per season we'll have guests just for fun episodes that are people we want to guest on.
Yeah. So look forward to those. Yeah. Thank you to everybody who has gone and left ratings or reviews on Apple Podcasts. As we said last episode, that is a huge way to help us. I have not checked in the past couple days, but we had a good little influx here since we published the first episode, and we might actually be on the new and noteworthy at this point.
Yeah,
but in addition to that, word of mouth is the best way. So if you can help spread the word of the show, that is how we've grown every other show that we've done.
Yeah, and it's really important.
Yes.
So we appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening. If you want to hear the rest of our shows or get this a week early, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. If you like this, I think you'll like our other shows. Check them out. And until next time, go Team Venture.
Go Team Venture.